I got to get down here like this. Okay, welcome to Growing Home Acres. This morning I'm going to make biscuits and gravy because we have a open, okay, it's funny, but I got to pick the camera up. We have an open breakfast sausage that has to be cooked up. So I'm going to make biscuits and gravy. And the biscuits, I keep saying I'm going to make, do the biscuit recipe from scratch, and then I don't get it done. So this morning I'm going to do that. So let me show you what I'm working with here. I pre-measured out 2 cups of flour, and I just use whatever flour the girls have in the container. I don't really pay attention to flour too much. They like bread flour, and Maria's got some different special flours that she uses for different things, but they're biscuits, and as far as I'm concerned, it's flour. So that's what I do. I have some frozen butter because I have to grate some butter, my grater. Then there's my baking powder, and I use Clabber Girl, just a regular old simple Clabber Girl baking powder. And the biscuit recipe that I originally started doing was off the back of that container, but it's different now. And then the 1 cup measuring cup, which I already used, and my other measuring spoons, my salt, 3/4 of a cup of raw milk. We use raw milk, and coffee because I cannot bake biscuits without my coffee. So I told you I already measured out the 2 cups of flour. So then it's a tablespoon of baking powder, and I just do a level tablespoon. It calls for a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, tablespoon, and I use just regular table salt. I don't need anything special. And normally I wouldn't use the whole the 1/2 teaspoon, but the butter I'm using, the homemade butter that I'm going to be grating, is Sarah's, and it is no salt. So if I don't use the entire amount of salt, then that is going to mess up my biscuits. So, and then I just mix, make sure everything's incorporated in before I get ready to start mixing in my butter. The butter is a 1/2 cup. And Sarah showed me this trick, and I wasn't doing this before, and she made biscuits one day, and they were so incredibly fluffy. I thought, man, I need to do that every time. And you just grate a 1/2 cup of butter. Now, this butter was made with cream that had sat in the fridge for, I think, 2 weeks, and it is stinky, which really makes for a good tasting biscuit. It's got kind of a sour taste, and it really gives a nice flavor. And you see how it grates up real nice because it's still frozen. But this is a good cooking butter. I mean, we eat so much butter in this house. Calling something cooking butter is kind of funny because we eat a lot of butter. I don't really measure an exact 1/2 cup. If you look in this measuring cup here, you go, oh wait, that's a 1/2 cup. Well, it's not, because it's grated, so it makes it, I don't know if the word bigger is good. So, and then this butter, I'll put back in our kitchen freezer, and the next time I want to do this, I'll have more. So that's how much butter I've got. You can't really go wrong with adding too much butter. And then it's just a fork. We put my exact cup of butter in. I'll have to wipe the counter off before I start putting the flour down because now I got butter on it. And then I just mix it in. When you add shortening to a biscuit recipe like this, a lot of times, you know, it's when you measure out your third cup, half cup, whatever you're using, it's one big clump. The nice thing about grating it, if you look here, the nice thing about grating it, it's already broken up. That's one of the advantages. And then 3/4 of a cup of milk, add it right into the center. And then just stir it in with the fork. And it'll be sticky. You scrape off the sides. You see it's starting to get sticky here. And it's okay if you think it's too wet, when you roll it out on the counter or on your cutting board, whatever you're rolling it out on, you're gonna add more flour to it, and that will dry it out a little bit. So as long as you use the correct amount of ingredients, even if it looks wet, like this does here, and you'll see when I pour it out on the counter, there's gonna be some dry stuff in the bottom of this bowl that when I start kneading, I'm gonna have to incorporate it back in. Just wipe this off, get the excess butter off of my butcher block. My handy dandy rolling pin. Now, one of the things that I don't do with this particular recipe is I don't use the tablespoon of softened butter that they call for. They want you to put softened butter on top of these biscuits when they go in the pan. And I'll show you when they do go in the pan why I don't do it that way. It's another little secret to a really fluffy, really flavorful biscuit that we do on this farm. So then you put your mixture out here, and even though it's wet, there's still some dry spots. Of course, and I put flour down on my counter so it doesn't, so my biscuits don't stick. Then you just fold it and knead it. I don't really have a time that I fold and knead. I just try to get it to come together. And this is really, as far as bread making goes, biscuits is the simplest recipe, I feel. But you know, you go into places and they have biscuits that are like hockey pucks. I don't like that. I like a fluffy biscuit. So just roll it like that. Keep the countertop floured. And now we take our rolling pin, start rolling it out. And you're going to roll it out really thin. Think, well, wait a second, how are you getting fluffy biscuits if you're rolling them out that thin? I will show you. And I try to roll them out pretty uniform when I roll them like this. It just makes it easier when you make layers. So I fold it like that. Start all over again. Roll it back out. And this biscuit recipe makes 6 to 8 biscuits, depending on how thick you roll it. And that's it. That's as much as I'm going to roll it. And then I need my handy dandy cast iron skillet, and here is the secret to not having to use butter to brown. See the liquid in there? We process our own pork lard here, and we find it to be much more yummy. So now we just take a wide mouth canning jar, put it in the lard, flip it, move on to the next. And that oil helps bake it evenly and browns it, so you don't have to put the butter on the top of the biscuit, which when I was first making these biscuits, I would always forget that step and then try to figure out why my biscuits didn't brown. But that's why. And you can use olive oil, which I do use olive oil, but we're out right now. We have some ordered. So then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 biscuits in here. And you can see I have the leftover. So I just make it small enough to cut with my mason jar. So there's my 6, and a little one that Jack will absolutely love. So let me show you here. Let me flip you around. There's the biscuits all shiny and in the pan. And I'm preheating the oven. The oven will get preheated to 475, and it's at 450 now. We'll put them in. They go in the oven for 12 minutes, and then we check them. Make sure that they've cooked all the way through, which they'll be cooked all the way through. The original recipe called for 11 to 13 minutes. I've always done it for 12 minutes. They always come out perfect, and that's it. So I will come back when they come out of the oven. Okay, I just pulled the biscuits out of the oven. So I'm going to flip them over in the pan. Bubba already wants one. And the reason I'm flipping them over is because this pan is 475 degrees. And it'll burn the bottoms. So we want to get them flipped. Now, I don't know if I said earlier about the folding. The reason that we fold is that's what gives you these great big fluffy layered biscuits. And you look on the inside of them. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So that is Papa's Biscuits. And once they cool down a little bit, I think somebody over here in the chair is going to be eating a biscuit. So that's what they look like, upside down. And So that's our pantry challenge for this morning. We're doing biscuits and gravy, which maybe we'll do a gravy recipe one time, but that's, it's pretty easy. So breakfast, really dry flour, really wet flour with sausage in it. If you like what we're doing, like, share, subscribe, growinghomeacres.com on YouTube or...
No.com.
Oh, no .com yet. Oh, we don't have the .com set up. So, Growing Home Acres on YouTube, Growing Home Acres on Facebook, and have a blessed day.